Welcome, viewers, to NSIC Weekly. Tom Frederick and Matt Witwicky here. I announce for the University of Sioux Falls. Matt covers NSIC for D2Football.com like Darrelle Revis used to blanket NFL receivers.
I can live with that.
The next hour, a visit to Revis Island, if you will. Is that too recent a reference for you there, Primetime?
I'm surprised you came up with that. Did somebody feed you that?
No, that was all on my lonesome.
Well, fair enough.
Hey, I had last weekend off. Couldn't have been more relaxing. I headed west, Monterey Peninsula, central coast of California. Got to visit my daughter's family. She's got a little girl who's almost 9. That's Charlotte on the left. Little boy who's 6. That's Will on the right. Grandpa Tom had a great time going to a soccer game, watching him carve Halloween pumpkins, went to the skate park. We hit In-N-Out Burger. We went to the beach, school drop off and pick up. I mean, it was a great time. Yeah, there's the avocado toast one on the West Coast.
Can I pause you for a moment?
Yeah.
Can you explain to me what's happening on the right side of the screen? My lips have never touched something like that for a cool morning anything. So you need to break us in on what exactly is going on there.
That's some sourdough bread with a spread of avocado on there with a little drizzle of olive oil, and that's some arugula and some red pepper flakes on top.
Was there no breakfast sandwiches in sight or something? Were you at gunpoint? What's going on here?
Hey, if you've not tried it, don't knock it, man.
I don't think I could get that down. But now, what I saw further on your trip, this looks like a little bit more my speed here.
That was in the Denver airport on the way out. Yeah, you got to have the little donuts with your caribou in the morning. You got to keep the caffeine delivery system, meshed together there. It was
well. Delicious. Who said anything about little donuts? But yeah,
I had 2 of them in there. They were delicious. From Blue. Also,
that would have just gotten me going. But yeah,
when I was gone, my swag arrived.
Oh yeah. You know what? Your swag arrived, and you know what's funny is there was I have 2 garments, a hoodie and a dry fit. I tell you, the hoodie, very nice. I'm going to be wearing this quite a bit. And, I was kind of walking around, and somebody at Hy-Vee asked me a little bit about D2 football and stuff. And I had a chance to kind of explain this, and it kind of made me feel good about the fact that, just the whole deal with our guy, Brandon Meisner, our founder. And for folks who are just kind of tuning in who aren't familiar with this, the BM here is Brandon Meisner, our founder, D2 Football. He had a stroke back in May, and we did a big fundraiser for him. And, just off the apparel sales, $3,000, we were very pleased with that. And Tom obviously has his shirt on there. Now, do you have the regular 50-50 or do you have the dry fit?
It's a dry fit.
Okay, good deal.
A large dry fit, as opposed to your 4, 5X.
Easy. Calm down. I don't have that many X's on the back, but the dry fit for me was actually very loose fitting.
Yeah,
so
it was great.
But yeah, we don't need to do that last part at all. And as for what I was doing,
I know what that is.
What's this?
You were doing a Jethro Bodine impersonation. Some cipher in there. You were doing your timeses and your gazintas.
I have the one you've missed me completely on that reference, and I'm okay with that. So this was me going over my Sunday morning regional rankings math with my guy Chuck Bittner, going region by region where we confer over how we see the projections that will be forthcoming Monday for a Sunday night show, which is become a Sunday thing for Chuck and I the last few years. And it's, let's just say it's a little bit of work. So,
how close were you?
Well, it depends on who was right, us or the committee. But
the committee has the last.
They have the official answer, but actually, Super Region 4 very close. Super Region 1 identical. 2 and 3, there's some explaining to do. So, but luckily, we don't have to plow that field today, so we're good.
All right, Lucy, you got some splaining to do. There's another dated reference for you.
I know that one, but let's move into some of the Northern Sun action before we gave you a chance to put out a few more of those.
Players of the week for Saturday, November 2nd. They hail from northern climes, and Nick Cornder from the NSIC's home office in beautiful downtown Burnsville, Minnesota, has tabbed Minnesota Duluth junior quarterback Kyle Walljasper the offensive player of the week. He's a junior from Fond du Lac, Wisconsin. 26 carries, 236 yards, 5 rushing touchdowns, along with 184 yards passing and a score. I guess that'll do it for you. Now,
well, not to mention another 180 yards passing and a touchdown that way too. And you know what, Tom? He ended up getting our D2Football.com National Offensive Player of the Week as well. So quite a week for him.
I want to ask you this question. He's the 8th quarterback out of 10 weeks to win the Offensive Player of the Week honors. Name the 2 guys who weren't quarterbacks who get the accolades.
Ooh, my first thought would be Jalen Richardson, but I don't know if he's actually gotten one this year. And between you and I, he should have. But, okay, so if I were going to go ahead and try and figure out who those would be, my first thought would be...
Think of our guest tonight.
Hold on. I was going to say receiver for... No, Jack Strand would get it then. I'll say Bubba Peters. And that's one of my guesses. And the other guess would be...
Think of our guest tonight.
Epperson. Those are who I have.
No. 0 for 2, buddy.
Okay.
Trayshawn Watson, Mankato.
Okay, that makes sense.
Brady Perryman, Moorhead.
You know what? I was going to say him when I was going down the Jack Strand road, but I thought, you know what? Strand's always going to get it because, he ends up kind of getting those numbers. So, okay, fair enough.
Strand has got it twice already, as has Gunnar Hensley at Augustana. The other 4 split among 4 different other quarterbacks, and then the 2 wide receivers. All right, on the defensive side, Mary's Josh Obese. He's a senior from Worcester, Mass. He forced 2 fumbles. He had a sack for a safety and 4 tackles for loss as the Marauders won their first league contest, 15-6 over Southwest Minnesota State. And the special teamer this week is Bemidji's kicker/punter. It's Connor Mantelli, a junior from Castle Rock, Colorado. He was 3 for 3 on field goals. He was 4 for 4 on PATs, as well as handling the punting duties as the Beavers handled Wayne State 37-20. A doffing of the chapeau, if you will, a tip of the cap in order to Messrs. Walljasper, Obese, and Mantelli.
Absolutely.
All right, our recap of last week begins with Mankato at Northern State. The Wolves had a league-high 5-game win string on the line. I picked them to win. They left me hanging high and dry. It was snapped as the top 15-ranked Mavs won at Dakota Bank Field.
Yeah, this is a really hard-played game by both sides. I think, every time one team would start moving, the other one would kind of bow their neck a little bit. And, this was a low-scoring game at half. And Mankato was up, but it didn't feel like they were too comfy with it. But they kind of still were able to keep Northern, a little bit at arm's length. Let's go ahead and watch a little bit of the highlights here, my friend. And we'll go ahead and see a little bit of that where you can see 4th down and 1. Northern had made a drive, and Mankato and Mr. Kretschke and everybody else goes ahead and gets a stop right there. Then you're going to go ahead and see Mankato down at the goal line themselves. And Mr. Eckern, he finds the pay dirt a lot when he's down there. And then you're going to go ahead and see him make a nice throw here. Grant Guyette goes ahead and gets in for the score. And we're 14-0 right before half. And, you go ahead and you see all of a sudden, nice RPO. Jacob Van Landingham is kind of rolling along here. And then right after that, and that was a nice little decision there by Britt. And then you're going to see the handoff here to Wyatt Block. And he gets through and goes ahead and gets confronted by a defender and just decides we're going to hop him and get in the end zone. Heck of a nice run. He's really had a nice season. Mavs down here at the goal. We aren't going to defend Hayden Eckert at the goal, which I'm not sure I get that one. But then a late score here by the Wolves. Just a little bit too little too late, as the Mavericks were out in front, very handily by that point. And the winning streak for Northern State comes to an end. They had won 5 in a row, and it was really they really got their season back during that time. And I thought that they played Mankato firmly, but at the same time, Mankato just had too much. And, as we go ahead and we kind of look at the box there, Antonio Alzheimer, he's having a strong year for them. Another 10 tackles.
Not and Blake Adams, though, man, look at that guy.
That's the other side. Is Adams is he could very well lead all of D2 in stops this year when it really comes down to it.
He leads the Northern Sun by more than a fair amount.
Absolutely.
Tackles. Our guest this week, Matt, is a fella who's no stranger to this podcast, joining us all the way from the garden spot of South Central Minnesota. It's Chad Courrier, the Mankato Free Press. Hey, Chad.
Hey, boys, how are we doing tonight?
You know what? We are doing good, Mr. Courrier. Let's. I'll let Tom go ahead and throw some things at you. But before we get to going with you, I know that you've been begging each week to come back on the pod, and we're glad to have you back.
Yeah, I was wondering as I listened to the intro, was Little Donuts? Did that used to be your high school nickname?
Oh, wow! See, you know what, Tom? This is what we bring him on here for. This type of input and analysis.
I didn't hear that correctly, so I was just checking with you.
I think it was Matt Bag of Donuts. But
Bag of Donuts. Okay, my bad.
Yeah. All righty. You've been begging to get on. I've been begging to get off. So it's a balance, I guess.
If you and I both leave, he's got no shot.
No, sink or swim then, baby.
Yep.
It's beginning to look like Augustana might win back-to-back league championships in the third and the last 4 seasons. In your estimation, has the rest of the NSIC kind of caught up to the former big dogs, Duluth and Mankato?
Well, I haven't seen Duluth yet this year in person. Augustana is by far the best team I've seen. I mean, that was I don't know what the final score was that day, but it could have been way worse than that. So clearly they're the best team. I still think Mankato's probably in the top of that next group. We'll see what happens when they play Duluth. I know they lost to Sioux Falls, but maybe that would change in a rematch, which we might get in the playoffs. Who knows? But Sioux Falls also played very well that day. Mavericks have had a little bit of trouble recently we've lost a couple of offensive linemen that are key. I think they might get one back this week. They've had a couple injuries that have kind of slowed down their offense a little bit, and their defense has always been kind of middle of the package. So a good quarterback play like Augustana had and like Sioux Falls had against them is going to give them problems. It's like last week, Northern's quarterback gave them some problems with some dual threat stuff. Frankly, Northern could have been ahead 14-0 in that game after the first quarter, and Minnesota State was lucky to get out of there. Still at 0 there. So, Mankato's not playing as well as they were early in the season, but I think they're probably still a threat. Certainly to make the playoffs. If they win this week and win next week, they'll probably have a home game in the playoffs, and that helps them a little bit. But I think it's Augustana and then probably 3 or 4 teams after that.
Chad, let me ask, with Mankato, right away, beginning of the year, super impressive performance in the way that they kind of dominated Northwest Missouri State at their place in a way that people just don't, running the ball down their throat and kind of playing bully ball a little bit. Then they, beat Bemidji in a great game, and it kind of just felt like this was the Mavs' year. In the last month, they're 2-2. Ended up they beat Moorhead. That game probably got a little bit closer in the score than it really was, but at the same time they didn't go run and hide per se, like maybe the Mavs would have in the past. What are some of the things you mentioned? They've had some injuries. What are some of the other things that you think that they can be attributed to this? And Do you see this kind of them turning a page on this a little bit, or are they still having some challenges being consistent, running the football and things like that?
Well, that's been the key, running the football. They played last week, I believe, without Gabe Hagan and Marshall Fournier, who's one of the premier linemen and certainly one of their best linemen. So, it's not out of the realm that they're going to struggle running the ball, but they're only averaging 4 yards a carry this year. And while some programs, 4 yards a carry would be great, that's really not what Minnesota State needs to do to be successful. They're used to being up in that 5, 6, maybe even more yards per carry and just being able to run it down your throat. And the problem they've had then is they've had too many 3rd and longs, and they're not really built for 3rd and long. Certainly they have some players like Watson and Gabe Hagan that can convert down the field, but they're built for 3rd and 2, play action, Eckern on the roll, that type of thing. So that's been a problem. Eckern's thrown some interceptions. The last home game, that Augustana game, he threw probably 5 or 6 balls to no one. So either the receiver ran the wrong route or he was pressured into throwing early.
Right.
So that's not something you see out of a senior quarterback. So I'm not sure who was at fault, but you can't throw it to nobody because nobody doesn't make the catch. And so they've had that problem. And defensively, they're kind of who they are every year. They're kind of a bend but don't break. Usually you get down to the goal line and the teams have trouble getting in the end zone against them. So that part's been kind of played out the way I thought it would. They've had some new faces in there. And like you mentioned, now Tony Alzheimer's had a fantastic year. And the defensive backfield's been a little bit closer to the receivers this year. There's still some people. Augustana had receivers running wide open all game, so that was a problem. But and on the defensive line, they're pretty strong with Krejci and Brown on the ends. So they've been kind of who I expected them defensively. I just, it's been a while since you've seen a Minnesota State team struggle to run the ball.
Sure.
From a distance, I was in California last weekend, so I looked at the box scores. I saw Anger didn't do much running the ball at Northern. And the guy who's really impressed me among the wide receivers of late is Grant Guyette. He's really come into his own.
Yeah, Anger hasn't been as much of the running game here the last 3 weeks. Oddly enough, I'm scheduled to talk to him later tonight for a senior day piece I'm doing. He's been out there and at the tight end. He's made some tremendous catches, but, they just haven't had as many 3rd and 1s.
Right.
4th and 1s is where you saw him really, really thrive, especially down at the goal line. They haven't had quite as much of that. Sam Backer's kind of taken over a main role. It started out kind of a 3-headed rushing machine with Vassar, Backer, and Anger. And Backer has kind of moved into that number 1 spot. He's got probably 20 more carries now than Vassar. And, Eckern still runs the ball quite a bit. So Tony Anger's one of those guys you love to watch. I mean, he's so emotional and so physical, and he made a one-handed catch against Augustana that was unbelievable. And
right.
You feel good for guys like that to have some success.
Guyette's been making a little more noise as a wide receiver as opposed to Watson of late.
Yeah, I think that's probably because Watson's getting a lot of attention, and again, they haven't connected with him down the field like they have. They had one play against Augustana, and again, it wouldn't have made any difference, but Watson was on a hitch and go, and the safety just came up and basically blocked him. It's got to be a penalty of some kind, but that's the kind of double team he's facing now. So you got to find someone else, and Guyette's not going to blow you away down the field, but he's good in space.
Right.
The kid they've really missed this year is Mason Parrish. Last year he was their deep guy, and he had a shoulder injury in fall practice and had some surgery that apparently didn't work because he got kind of re-injured his first day back in practice. So was
that his younger brother, Coy, from Esco, who's playing for the Gophers?
Yep, that's the same family. And Mason's a playmaker like, not quite to the level his brother is, but he's a guy you miss. And when you get those guys going deep, then all of a sudden the Gabe Hagan underneath is a lot more open than he's been. So, they've had some chances there. Their pass game hasn't connected like I thought maybe it could, but maybe when you get everybody back, it'll be a little better.
Chad, let me ask you this. Do you think that you've watched a lot of Mav teams, you watched, anything from the team that went to the 14 national title game and 19 national title game both, and I know you knew those squads very well. Is this the kind of group, do you think, that can go on a run on the playoffs, or what do you think they need to do to clean up to make something like that happen?
Yeah, certainly they're capable of it, just given their history. But I would have to admit that having watched Augustana, they've got a ways to go if they end up playing Augustana again, which is a very real possibility the way the NCAA tries to keep you from getting on a plane in the playoffs. So you play a lot of regional opponents there. Augustana was clearly better than them. So I think, like I said, in a rematch with Sioux Falls, it wasn't a fluke that Sioux Falls beat them the first time, but in a rematch, I wouldn't be surprised if Minnesota State turned the table on that one. So certainly they could win that. And I think they can beat teams that haven't seen them play. I think most teams, when they get out of conference and play some of these in the playoffs, they're not used to the physicality that Minnesota State tries to bring and perhaps could bring against some of those other squads. But Augustana is clearly the hurdle that they would have to get by, and Pueblo as well in the region. If Minnesota State should get to the playoffs, Pueblo is a physical team, and there's enough history in that series that they would know what's coming as well. So certainly they're capable. Whether they can or not, they have to get healthy. And if you run the football, you do better on third down. Their third down conversion rate isn't near what it has been. I think it's just over 50% somewhere, and it's usually in the 70%. So those are things you got to clean up.
I've got to ask both of you guys this question. I've got tunnel vision when it comes to football at this level, NSIC only. Witt, you've been to national championship games. Chad, you've covered playoff games, been to national championship games. Does the NSIC have the ability this year to compete for a national championship based on what you've seen around the country?
Yeah, it's hard to say because until you get on the same field with them, Minnesota State usually runs into a problem of quick, fast, athletic players in space when it comes to the final games of, like when you get to the final 16 or the final 8, Minnesota State's defensive backfield is a little bit more athletic and a little bit faster now, so maybe they would match up better. But when they used to come up against Valdosta or Ferris State or some of those programs, they would dump the ball to a receiver in space, and Minnesota State, by the time they would get to him, now it's a 5 to 7 yard gain, and they're constantly chasing receivers. And what I saw from Augustana, it's hard to say because Minnesota State doesn't challenge their secondary that way. So I don't know if Augustana would have the speed in the defensive backfield to keep up with the national teams. I know their linebackers are tremendous.
Yep.
It was a 32 and 51. I don't remember what the they had two guys that were two linebackers that went sideline to sideline. They were tremendous, and team's going to really have trouble running the ball on them. So if you can defend that, pass out to space, which a lot of the Southern teams like to do, spread you out and find your weakness. If you can slow that down, certainly the physicality gets to them.
Yeah, and Tom, I think that Augustana would be kind of that team because they're veteran enough, and that defense will travel. And the speed piece, though, I think is always going to be a thing, really. When Chad mentioned Ferris State, Valdosta, we're talking about two best teams right now in the country. Grand Valley can do a little bit of that, but Grand Valley is a little more physical than those teams. So I'll be curious, Tom, if we're looking at teams in the top 5, top 10, Pitt State comes to mind. And I'd be interested to see if somehow there was a little bit of regional swapping and you end up having a Pitt State all of a sudden making a trip on up to the Mavs. That's a very good defensive team who plays a opportunistic offensive style, and that would be a very interesting new matchup that we haven't seen in 10 years. Chad, I remember that game when Pitt State made the trip on up to Mankato, and Mankato was able to win in overtime. So back in 2014. So who knows? Maybe we'll even see something like that, Tom.
All righty. The playoffs will begin on the 23rd of November. That's 2 weeks from Saturday. Yikes. They'll be here before you know it.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what? I think all of us would love to see not conference matchups So give me any of those that we could talk about, and I will take them. Just because we're kind of, I think all the coaches are sick of it too. Just give them somebody new to play, kind of like Chad was alluding to.
We've got regional rankings discussion coming up in a little bit later. Chad, you're going to stick around. And you're in for the duration, buddy.
I'm in. Nobody got it figured out here.
You're here. You're
Chad's going to do the pick 'em with. Maybe we'll even give Chad your right answers, Tom, so you have a chance to catch up. Ooh, what did I just say there?
Let's continue our recap, shall we? As discussed in the Player of the Week segment, Kyle Walljasper had a dominant performance in the UMD's 4-point win at Winona State. Walljasper, man, he's a stud.
Yeah, I flipped on that game, Tom, this afternoon over lunch because I frankly was so busy with the national stuff over the weekend that I didn't really have a chance to dive into certain select games that I wanted to catch up with. So this was my way to do it before our show today. And fourth quarter, it's like, okay, let's run Walljasper power. Okay, let's run it again. And, they were just pounding the ball. He ends up averaging 9 yards a carry, 5 touchdowns. They got Sam Pitts a little bit more involved in this one here. He had 7 grabs for 132, which I think may be his top game of the year. And he was open a few times when I was watching. And I see Cole Stenstrom is, he's still playing for Winona. So remember when we were talking weeks ago, when they had the freshman quarterback, whose name is escaping me right now. There you go. When he was coming on in, he got hit quite a few times against Augustana. So I'm kind of wondering if he's out with an injury here for a little bit. But nonetheless, a very competitive football game. And Duluth now is over 500, Winona a game below. In a game where if we were looking at this, Tom, 5, 6, 7 years ago, this might have been two of the best teams in the conference. And right now, because of the parity we have in the league, they're both in the middle.
Yeah, they're also Rands. They're not going to make the playoffs, not this year. Playoffs. Well, Bemidji State protected its home turf. Chet Anderson Field, right there on Lake Bemidji, handling Wayne State comfortably. I didn't see the margin being this wide, but man, Bemidji dominated.
Yeah, this was a 30-7 football game just after half. And Bemidji was just able to assert themselves. Wayne is that Sioux Falls game. It feels like Sioux Falls beat them twice here, meaning it's like a hangover after that game when you have to go up and play against a very physical Bemidji team who's going to try and do some of the same things to you Sioux Falls did, frankly. Marcus Hansen, 3 tackles for loss, 1 sack. He's right near the top of the league in those categories. Carter Sitzman from Wayne State's actually leading the league in tackles for loss.
Number 97.
Yeah, he's a very underrated player who we probably don't talk enough about, to be honest. But they were able to stop the Wayne running game and really put everything on Nick Bowen, and that's a tough deal for him at that point. And because they also have a pass rush that's going to get after you. But Chad, you had a chance to see Bemidji State when they played the Mavs, and that was a heck of a football game. Back then, we were kind of thinking this was going to be a playoff team, and right now it looks like they may be on the outside looking in.
Yeah, they're definitely gonna have trouble getting in. You're right about that game. That was a great game. I thought both teams, there were no turnovers, no team scored consecutive touchdowns, just back and forth and big plays on both sides. It was a lot of fun to watch, and I really thought Bemidji had staying power after watching that game. But it just shows in this league, man. You slip up 1 week, and you're done. If for some reason Minnesota State doesn't make the playoffs, they'll probably look at the Sioux Falls game as a game they wish they would have played better, and Sioux Falls would be then probably the team to take their place in the playoffs. So it's just every week is a challenge, and that's what we were talking before. I think the Northern State win was actually pretty good after watching that. I wouldn't have said that at the beginning of the year, but Northern State had a nice team. Northern State's capable, I think, of beating a lot of teams in this league, and certainly they had their shot against Minnesota State. But Wayne State's kind of in that same position. When you watch them play other teams, they look like a playoff team. When they played Minnesota State, I didn't think so.
Chad, you know what's funny is that years ago, I can remember you and I, for those who haven't been around league for a very long time, I remember you and I were sitting right next to each other up in the booth in 2016 watching USF at Mankato up in the comfort of Blakesley Stadium's press box. And back then, we would have never said there's a Big Five or and this year going in, there was a Bemidji, Wayne State, Augie, Duluth, Mankato, Big Five coming into the season that depending on who you ask, they may have that order of that five differently. Now you've added the Sioux Falls to that mix in terms of how they're playing at this year. You also take a look at a Northern State, like you mentioned, who's able to punch up with these teams, and a Moorhead who's beaten Duluth and Augustana this year. This league has got so much more depth to it, Chad, than any of those old days.
Yeah, I just think the transfer portal just really kind of evens a lot of that out because nobody's sitting at Minnesota State as a backup lineman happy to sit there 2 years and then be a star when you can go somewhere else and be a star for 3 years. So,
Sure.
I just think it's really even. Wayne State did such a good job in the transfer portal coming out of the pandemic and kind of rebuilt their whole entire program because before that they had kind of slipped to the bottom half. And I think they're a perfect example of how you use the portal and make it work. And now once you do get to be good, it's hard to retain players who aren't in a starring role and would be stars for you maybe next year or the year down the road.
Get a chance to re-recruit your roster at the end of the year, as the coaches will
Every
say.
year, that's one of the basketball coaches here at Minnesota State told me every year is a junior college. You're a junior college program. You got to go recruit your entire roster.
Mankato's taken a lot of Wayne State guys the last couple of years on the basketball floor.
Yeah, they must have taken their best one last year because he was pretty good.
They did. Yep. All right, moving right along. The pass beat the run in this one. High-powered offensive game in Minot, but Strand's arm carries the day for the Dragons.
Yeah, the Strand throws for 344 yards, and Minot runs for 344 yards. So one of those kind of games. And, I think Carson Crispin's done a really nice job for running that offense the way that they need a guy to be able to hurt you in the running game. And frankly, he's become their best rusher on this team. Evan Lovett's been solid, but Crispin's been a little bit more dynamic. And, when they get to the spot where they have to try and throw the ball to come back, that's still a little bit of heavy lifting for them. But Jack Strand, pretty much one of his normal days, 31 of 46, 344, 5 tuds. He even ran for a touchdown, Tom. So I know it's almost like when Brandon Alt decided to do that 40-yard run last year just to spite us.
Yikes.
I know it.
I like you. I like Crispin. He's a converted safety, and he runs that flex bone offense pretty good for a guy who's learning it on the fly, so to speak.
Now, Chad, I know you when Minot visited Mankato, that was by far their worst game of the year. Mankato just was really a beast that they hadn't seen yet, that kind of big, talented group. Now, they've rebounded fairly nicely since then, though, and been competitive in games, Chad. Because remember, in years past, if they won a few games and then they started a losing streak, it was kind of like it fell off the table. But, they're playing toe-to-toe with teams like Moorhead right now.
Yeah, they're like that one team. Well, both of these teams, Moorhead and Minot, they're the team you never want to play just because of the way they go about their business. And like we've talked about before, Minnesota State is built to stop the run, so they're probably a little bit more a better or a worse matchup for Minot. Moorhead, man, how happy are the league coaches going to be when Strand graduates? I can't imagine the next quarterback. I mean, he might be good, but he can't possibly be that good. Otherwise, he'll be in Division I somewhere.
He may transfer before he graduates.
Yeah, I'm actually surprised Strand is still at Moorhead after having a year like that. He had to have some options, but
yeah, it speaks to what they must have going there in the program. I'm glad these guys stay because that's
the least they can do for these programs. I think that take them in, but
Yeah.
well, why not? Who knows what their future is? Certainly 4 wins is good for them, not good for a lot of teams. And I've always said it's in these college football conferences, it's not really that hard to get above the middle of the pack. It's that next step to get to the top of the pack that's really, really hard.
Yeah.
Both of these teams are kind of in that spot. Wayne's kind of been in that spot a little bit. It's just hard it's easy to get to 500. It's really hard to get to 10-1.
Well, and let's be real frank, Minot is not the easiest place to recruit to. And Moorhead obviously has North Dakota State right there in the same market. So both of them have kind of their own challenges. So both of them being right here, I think is a real good thing. But that next move, like you mentioned, that's a whole different beast. Yeah.
Yep.
Augustana had a challenge last weekend. That challenge was not to look past Concordia St. Paul because the big key to the city game coming up this weekend. They didn't fall into that trap. They win a 3-score game. They didn't cover, though, Witt. I still scratch my head. Massey had him favored by 30 last week. 21 was about where I figured it to be.
Yeah, this was the kind of game that, Augie gets up. Was it I think it's 14-0 right before half. They get a pick 6 from Hayden Wallace, who's number 51 that was mentioned earlier by Chad. And Epperson, they leaned on Epperson quite a bit. He ran for 150, caught another 50 yards, 2 scores. They're really, as Coach talked about with us last week, kind of upping his workload. And he's just got such quick feet. He's really hard to corral with how agile he is. And I think Jim Glogowski, the head coach of Sioux Falls, this last week on his coach's show mentioned Epperson is the most complete running back in the league, which I think is it's a little different comment than Jalen Richardson, who may be your best ball carrier per se, in terms of making, and he can also carry the ball 30 plus times a game. Epperson, though, is more complete in terms of being able to run inside, outside, catch the football in space, make plays with it, and everything that comes with that. And I felt like Augie, once they got up comfortably in this game, they didn't feel like they needed to put a ton on film right before that Sioux Falls game, and just kind of, rode out the game from there for a comfortable 28-7 win.
All right, last but not least, the University of Mary won the battle of winless teams in the NSIC anyway. Went into Marshall and prevailed 15-6. Witt, I heard an interesting stat. I picked up my passes for the key to the city game this week over at Augustana.
Yes.
Andy Thurston is the Augie SID. He learned at the knee of Kelly Loft at Southwest Minnesota State.
Great guy.
Kelly told him this information. The Southwest offense has been on the field for 17 touchdowns this season. They've scored 7. Opponent defenses have scored 10 times.
Yeah, and that may even be 11 now, but I know it was at least 10. I was actually...
As
yeah,
John
and you know what?
said,
Yeah.
and crazy stuff, man.
Yeah, it kind of speaks, unfortunately, to the identity they've been searching for offensively, switching back and forth between quarterbacks, who's healthy, who's not, and everything else. Now, this was an 11 a.m. kick, you may recall, Tom. So I actually, since this was the only game on, and to be honest with you, if this was amongst a bunch of games, I'm probably not picking this one first, if we're going to be honest. I was watching this game. Keep in mind, I picked the Mustangs, Tom.
I know you.
So I was riding high at 6-0 in the second quarter, and a fumble goes the other way for a 60-yard touchdown for Mary, and I felt like my chances were going down the field as they were running in for the score, 7-6, and the second half of this football game consisted of a safety for Mary and a field goal for Mary. You could have taken this game film and used it for torture, to torture prisoners into making confessions. I mean, by having them watch this. It was that bad. This was a tough game to watch. And I really was hoping that Southwest was going to scratch the win that they needed here. Heck of an effort there from Josiah Hedenston. 12 tackles. He's been a stud for them all year. But they're not getting it going offensively.
No.
Courier, do you have any pithy comments you'd like to add to this barn burner?
Well, I might have a chance to watch the freight train that is Mary this weekend.
Well, they're coming in red hot.
Red hot, yeah. Not sure yet if I'm going to be the guy doing it or someone else. But
now, keep in mind, they almost beat USF, so this league is wild like that.
And Minnesota State isn't pounding teams like this like they did. I mean, they haven't played a lot of teams like this yet this year. They played Concordia. Would be Moorhead would have probably the next worst or Minot. They haven't played the Mary Southwest.
They played an outstanding schedule. You're exactly right.
Yeah, they've their schedule has been very impressive. And again, that if they do get to the NCAA playoffs, that'll be why.
Yeah, no doubt about it.
Well, as everybody is well aware here on the pod, we loves the chicken. We loves the pizza. Our corporate sponsor, Boss's Pizza and Chicken. Witt, what's up with Bosses?
You know what? They are, what's funny? We got Courier on the pod here. Courier, they are looking to open up a location, like a hotel bar type location, where they go ahead and put in a Boss's Pizza and Chicken, in a sports bar type, setting there in the Mankato area. Courier, you're fixing to retire soon enough. This sounds like a great chance for you to become a franchisee of Boss's Pizza and Chicken.
Perhaps you don't understand the meaning of retire.
No,
to tell you what this does look like, it's an outstanding place for me to have lunch.
Well, you know what? If they open up a place there, then you and I will go ahead and grab lunch there sometime.
It's a hard sell in Mankato. I mean, we got Jake's, we got Polly's. I mean, those are legendary locations. But
but they're not sponsoring us, so that's actually more important. But now, do you guys have Pizza Ranch in your part of the world, my friend?
We do.
I thought you were going to say yes to that because you know what, Chad? Pizza Ranch taking shots at our sponsor.
Throwing some shade.
We are the boss. What are we doing here, Pizza Ranch? Now, we're not trying to organize a boycott or anything, but I'm just saying, them's fighting words. I can't believe they actually put that up there.
I don't think that's a fight they want to start, is it?
Who would? Especially when they're our sponsor and we have our army of fans behind us.
Our legion of fans.
Yep.
Yes. So,
there was another shakeup atop the. Well, you went to the wrong slide there, buddy. We're going the D2 slide.
Oh, okay. Well, that's actually the next one in line, but okay.
I shifted them before. You must have shifted them back.
Yeah. Well, yes. Once I downloaded in, buddy, you can shift all you want. Doesn't matter.
All right. Pitt State stumbled on Saturday. Super Region 4, in which the NSIC is a part, and which we'll be discussing shortly here, is what? Super Region 4, I think, has 7 teams in the top 25.
That sounds about right.
So.
I didn't do a count. That's your bit. I don't know. You tell me.
Yeah. Pueblo, Western Colorado, Augie, Mankato, Angelo State,
yep,
Colorado Mines,
and Sioux Falls.
Sioux Falls. That's 7. Boom.
Absolutely. Yeah. So it's a strong, super region. Now, Super Region 3, that's a little wild, Tom, because if you went up there, you got number 1, number 4, number 5, number 7, number 8, number 12, number 19, good governor. So, but yeah, and if we were to go ahead and kind of drill down just the Northern Sun teams, our top 25, we've got Augustana up to 10. We've got Mankato sitting at 15. I think there's still a lot of respect given to what they've done, what they've accomplished this season. And Sioux Falls is in ours at 23. They are not in the coaches poll yet. Sometimes when it comes to a team who had an off year, that respect coming back takes a little bit longer time in the coaches poll, we've kind of come to see.
I think it's just a natural progression now that we move into the regional rankings discussion. So go over that last slide again. Skip the NSIC standing slide. We'll get to that, but
Yeah,
it's
I'm already
regional
past it, my friend.
regional rankings. Okay, here we go.
Yep.
The 17th of November is when the pairings will be announced, but we've got this week's number 2 release, next week number 3, and then the final release for the playoffs, first round. Give us
So each Monday, about, I don't know, 3 p.m. Central time, the NCAA on their D2 page will release these top 10 regional rankings, and the top 7 will actually make the dance. And just some quick notes. Courier, I need to tell you a few things. Those top 25 polls, they don't have any bearing on any of this. Despite the fact people will argue me in the comments to say otherwise. Only D2 games count. So like Augustana's game against South Dakota State has no bearing on this. Sioux Falls played St. Thomas. No bearing on any of this. Margin of victory is not being tracked. Then top 7 teams in each of those 4 regions will make the national tournament. Now, we have right here the selection criteria. We're not going to go ahead and replow this field. We talked about on our last show, the yellow area up above, winning percentage and your strength of schedule is really the main component. Then after that, it kind of comes down to how do you do against teams with a winning record? And you get kind of bonus points for that, for lack of better terms. Now, Tom, remember that Kevin Pauga index that you and I talked about a few weeks ago?
Yeah.
That's actually being used. We can see proof of that, and I'm going to talk a little bit about that here in a moment. We weren't sure if that was going to be utilized much at all as a new criteria, but it really is. So that kind of moves us into the breakdown here. And Tom, on the left side where it says SR4, that's the actual 1 through 10 ranking that the NCAA came out with on Monday. Then as you look left to right, you're going to see all the data from there. Now, some of the things I have in yellow that I want to kind of point on out is if you take a look, we have Pueblo right now on the 1 line. And importantly, this is not like standings where if you were number 3 as Minnesota State this week, and it looks like we lost Courier there for a minute. But if we lose, for example, if Minnesota State were to win this week, but they're playing Mary, they could end up not keeping their spot at 3 because their strength of schedule is going to take a little bit of a hit. So each week, this is like your resume is recomputed and brand new. So if you were 3 last week, it doesn't mean that you're going to be 3 again this week, that type of thing. And I think we might have Courier back. Courier, are you back with us?
Yeah, the little internet outage there. So
is that what we're going to call that? Okay, fair enough. I just figured it was user error. But as we're looking at this Courier before you dropped, we were kind of talking about how these aren't standings, and Mankato, for example, Chad, they're going to play a Mary team that's going to hurt their strength of schedule, which is 582. They may be like 540 after this, which isn't quite as wow as it was this week.
But so still pretty good.
Yeah, but you know what? For example, like a Sioux Falls, they're going to go from 523 to probably over that by playing Augustana. So that's how you can see that big of a shift week to week. And, those are the kind of things to keep in mind. So if you're a Mavs fan, don't just assume you're on the 3 line, and if you win, you're not going anywhere. They recompute this resume every week, and I can't stress that enough. Now, we can see the Northern Sun teams, Augustana's at 2, because they don't quite have as good a resume at the moment as Pueblo does. If Augustana beats Sioux Falls, they're probably going to be on the 1 line because they're going to have another quality win. That's just my guess. Then from there, you have Mankato, who is sitting in a great spot because of that high strength of schedule that Chad was talking about earlier. They have 5 wins also over a team that is 500 or better. That is best in the nation. There's not another team that has 5 wins over teams with 500 or better. The fact that they played 7 teams with that kind of record out of their 9 games speaks to their strength of schedule a whole lot. But that's why they're ahead of Western Colorado, Tom. If we look at Western Colorado at 8-1, conventional wisdom would think, okay, they're going to be ahead of Mankato. Well, their strength of schedule is not even at 500. They've played 2 teams that have a record of 500 or better. So,
nope.
Yeah, so you don't get kudos when that happens from the committee. Now, Sioux Falls, if you look at them with Central Washington, I kind of thought that Sioux Falls was going to be on the 6th line coming into Monday. However, the new metric that's being used, KPI, towards the far right side, you can see Central Washington has a great KPI there, and Sioux Falls not quite as good. And there's a measurable difference because there's no other thing to really point to as to why Central Washington would be higher. Sioux Falls even has a win over the number 3 team, Mankato, whereas Central Washington doesn't even have that impressive a win. So inescapably, that's got to be getting utilized if you follow where I'm going there.
Do us a favor, go back to the previous screen so we see what the KPI consists of again.
Yeah, so if we go ahead and we look at that KPI, and that's in red here, Tom, I'll let you kind of read that off.
KPI ranks team resumes by assigning a value to each game played. The best win possible is worth about a +1, the worst loss about a -1, and a virtual tie at 0. Adjustments are made to each game's value based on location of the game, opponent quality, and percentage of total points scored. So put that in layman's terms, would you? Because I'm confused.
Yeah, so in other words, if you play a really good team, you will get like 0.7 for that. Now, if you play a bad team, you're going to get maybe down as low as almost 0. Now, if you have a loss, it's going to go the other way on you. Now, what's interesting about this, though, is that it says, and a percentage of total points scored. So this is the first time, because this is a brand new metric, that we've had anything related to margin of victory.
Yep.
So it's only a tiny piece of this, but it's interesting to note anyway.
Okay.
So as we're looking at this, the other thing to kind of look at and mention as you look left to right, you have Sioux Falls on that 7 line, so they're currently in, okay? If Sioux Falls were to beat Augustana, they would all of a sudden have a tiebreaker over Mankato and Augustana. That means they would probably find themselves in the top 4 there, Tom. If you find yourself in the top 4, you know what that means?
You're hosting.
Yeah, 2, 3, and 4 host a playoff game. 1 gets a bye. 5, 6, 7 all go on the road somewhere, and they don't go by seeding. At that point, you're at large teams that can go anywhere based upon what Chad referenced earlier about we'd like to not have to put you on a flight. So if we can drive you somewhere and make it easier, we don't care if it's 5 at 2 or 5 at 4, whatever it is. But on the far right portion of our page, we have in silver those 2 columns where it's going to show us who are their upcoming games. The teams in red are ones who are basically in the mix here within this grouping. So those are opponents that you have upcoming. Augustana, they've got quite a bit of meat left on the bone here. They have USF, and then they got to go to Bemidji, which late in the year like this, that could be an interesting situation weather-wise. You have Pueblo, who's playing Colorado Mines, a 2-loss Colorado Mines team this week. You've got, Angelo State's playing Western Oregon. You've got a whole bunch of big games upcoming here, not only this week, but next. But this is kind of what makes this part-time of the year really exciting, because one outcome here or there can really change the dynamics quite a bit.
Yeah, interesting. You spent a lot of time on this. I have to give you kudos.
Well, Chuck and I have looked this over quite a bit, and we'll see what pans out. Courier, you look like you're like you've got a math problem in front of you there.
Yeah, you talk about Sioux Falls is such an interesting case here because if they win the game, they move up in the top 4. If they don't beat Augustana, take a third loss, the game against Southwest is going to be virtually meaningless to them. In a win, it's going to kill your strength of schedule.
Yep.
That gives the opportunity for a team like Mines, if they were to beat Pueblo, to jump up there, and that'll increase their strength of schedule and a little bit better record. Bemidji, I don't know that Bemidji get up into that without beating Augustana, but Sioux Falls is a really interesting spot. This week's game is really, I think, kind of a make or break for them as far as the NCAA playoffs.
Well, you know what's funny, though, Chad? Let's take a look at those teams on the lines directly below them. Western Oregon is probably going to drop a game in the next 2 when you look at who they have in front of them. Colorado Mesa, they have to play Western Colorado, who's the 4. Colorado Mines is playing Pueblo. So right now, if you were to go by projections, every team below Sioux Falls is slated to lose a game before in these next 2 weeks. So it leaves the door open, in my opinion, for maybe a 50-50 chance that a team with 3 losses could possibly end up on that 7 line. I know that sounds crazy, but the only reason I say that, Chad, is because those teams directly behind them have such a tough road left.
That's why I say I think Mines is the only team that could possibly jump in there, just given they would have a victory over Pueblo.
If they did, yeah.
Give them the boost that they would maybe need to jump into the top 7. Otherwise, that's your 7. I don't see how Western Oregon, Mesa, Bemidji, or Wayne, I don't think those teams get in, based on Sioux Falls winning at least one of the 2 games.
Right? Yeah. And so, I mean, there's still a lot left, but there's no question, Chad. I think Sioux Falls is probably the most interesting team on here because, frankly, we weren't expecting them at the beginning of the season. A lot of the other guys that are on the page were probably what teams that you would have expected to be much more in this conversation. And Sioux Falls going from 3 wins a year ago, and now they've got what, Tom? 7 at the moment. So. Yep. I mean, that's quite a change.
Yeah, I hope the Northern Sun just doesn't give Coach of the Year to the team that wins the championship this year, because clearly what Jim's done there this season and rebuilding that program in 2 years, he deserves to be the top coach in the league this year.
That's a great point. We hadn't even gotten that far yet, but I would fully agree with everything you just said. No doubt about it.
You should do that more often.
Here we go. Tom, any other thoughts on this before we move on?
No, you've done your homework there. I'll give you a pat on the back. Chad, you want to give him a pat on the back?
No, that's too big of a back.
If they had only seen what happened in the green room. Tom, speaking of doing my homework, once again, just now you're a mere 8 games behind me.
I've resigned myself to the fact I'm not catching up.
We're going to give you the deal here of the century. We're going to give you every game that Courier gets right, you get added to your total.
Wow.
Chad, no pressure.
Yeah. That should be about 5.
So let's go ahead and kind of jump on into these, and we will end up, the key to the city games at the very end, the rivalry. And, Look again. We have another early start, Tom, in Marshall.
Yeah, for whatever reason, I guess they want to get those games over with quickly.
I'm not saying that, but it kind of feels that way. Winona, and that's the battle for the sledge, Tom.
Yeah, the battle for the sledge, where Winona is favored by 27 points. Sounds about right to me.
Yeah, right now they might let them use it in the game to take a swing at Southwest the way this is going, but. Yeah, I like Winona to finish this season strong, and to kind of this game all of a sudden gives them some new meaning to going and playing a team that would otherwise maybe be kind of hard to get up for. So I like Winona rolling in this one. Courier, what do you have?
Yeah, these are 2 teams I haven't watched at all this year, probably on purpose. But Southwest is just, it's kind of sad what's happened there. I mean, I think that staff is some good people, and I kind of wish them some success, but something's just not happening there. So Winona's going to win, I think, pretty easily.
Yeah, it seems like there's a bit of a retention issue, and ever since COVID, it's been a bit of a challenge for the squad, no doubt about it.
High noon in Wayne, America here, boys. Northern State and Wayne State College. Massey says Northern is an 11-point dog. I'm going with the Wolves.
Ooh, Courier, I'm going to let you go next. Who do you like? Do you like Northern or do you like Wayne in this one?
I think if Northern would have beat MSU last week, I think that might change the outlook in this game. But that had to be a tough loss at home, especially kind of outplaying them in the first half. Wayne's generally a little bit better at home. I'll take Wayne in this one.
I don't like the direction Wayne's been going lately. And I think Coach Schmidt's done a heck of a job to get their mojo back the way he did this year. Wayne has one more home game after this. So I'm actually, it's not going to be senior day. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go with the Wolves on the road here, Tom.
Samesies. The first two games here we're picking the same.
Well, you're gonna get a point one way or the other because Courier went the other way. So I mean,
good.
The strategy's gonna work somehow. Yeah.
Next up, Duluth at Concordia. The Bulldogs of UMD are 20-point favorites, according to Massey. And UMD wins. There's no doubt about it in my mind. No doubt.
Courier, how you going on this?
Yeah, Concordia has been that team that seems like they've played everybody tough, but then gotten beat by 2 touchdowns or more. If ever there was a week to play Duluth, probably coming off a game like Duluth had last week, and then making them travel down to Concordia would probably improve Concordia's chances in this one. But Duluth still has something to play for, I think. Concordia really doesn't. I'll take Duluth, but I think it's probably a little bit closer than that spread, just based on Concordia's been kind of hanging with teams for at least half of the game, maybe 3/4 of a game.
Duluth is a good team against the run. Tom, you got a chance to see that when Cougars had a hard time getting things going other than the quarterback runs. And I think it's a bad matchup maybe for Concordia in that way. So I'm going to take Duluth. I don't think they're going to be necessarily at the number you mentioned, but I have them winning for sure.
No progress will be made on that game. Thanks. Mary is at Mankato. 30 is the spread according to Massey. No quibbles from me on that.
Well, Tom, we've kind of mentioned on the show plenty that, the Mavs haven't been themselves for the last, several weeks probably. And I think we may see a return to who they can be a little bit this week. I kind of expect them to handle Mary, and I think maybe they cover that number. Chad, how do you see it?
Well, I talked with Coach Hoffner this morning. It sounds like they're going to get a couple of their injured players back, perhaps Hagen and Forner, Jeremiah Howard, a wide receiver, Max Lamo, a defensive tackle who they really miss in the middle of the defensive line. So they're getting a couple guys back. This one looks to me like the game that maybe Minnesota State can develop a little bit of momentum going into that finale with Duluth. Maybe you can have a game where you throw it around or kind of run the ball a little bit better and maybe gain a little confidence. It just seems like this is a good spot for Minnesota State to have maybe its highest scoring game of the year.
Fair enough.
We're all in unison then. Bemidji visiting Moorhead. And the Beavers are favored by 7 for no other reason than I was on their bandwagon earlier this year, and they're playing at home. I'm going with the Dragons.
This is the battle for the axe, if I'm not mistaken, Tom. I don't do as well with every rivalry game as I should, but I think this is the battle for the axe. And I think Moorhead is kind of a bad matchup for Bemidji. Moorhead is going to throw the ball around and get rid of the football very quickly. I think that may negate a little bit of that pass rush from Bemidji, which is kind of their situation. And I just have a feeling that Strand and company are going to find a way to win this football game.
Chad?
What are the odds 3 people on the upset? Moorhead's played some pretty good football at their place. They beat Duluth, was it? Bemidji? Not Bemidji, Augustana, was it they beat up there?
43-41.
Yeah, I can't recall. They very closely to beating Minnesota State up there as well. So Moorhead at home. I like them a lot.
Well, the folks in Bemidji, their coaching staff is surely thanking the show because we will be on the bulletin board for sure after those picks. Tom, what do you have for our last game?
It's the 12th Key to the City contest between city rivals Sioux Falls and Augustana. The folks at Massey say the Vikings are a 10-point pick. I say, did they somehow get a hold of my medical marijuana card and go crazy? Are they nuts?
Well, let's before we jump in on our actual picks.
Right. It's
got a little bit of a graphic here that we're going to go ahead and show for those who are coming in new on this, you're going to be able to see a little bit of the history of this game. Sioux Falls won the first 6 out of 7. And then from there, it's been a little bit even. And obviously didn't play in 2020. And you look from there, Tom, last year, it was kind of a one-sided football game. And one of the few that's been that kind of one-sided, Sioux Falls in 2018, they won big at Augustana. Now, Tom, Sioux Falls has won 5 times at Augustana, 5-0 there, correct?
correct.
And then at Sioux Falls, then by my math, it's 3-3. Interesting situation with that, but Coach OJ, you see him right there after their win a year ago, holding, the key to the city right there. And on one side, Tom, we have, the Augustana. On the other side, we have Sioux Falls. So, this is, I'm really looking forward to this setting come Saturday. This is a shot from last year's. This is not a shot I got. I'm one of the people down on the field there. No, I'm sorry, 2 years ago. What am I saying last year? 2 years ago. And this will be about 7,000 people or so. It only holds 6,500 in the seats, Tom. And then there's about another 500 plus that will be on the berms and everything else. I always enjoy this game more, Tom, and I've been to every one of them. I've always enjoyed this game more when it's at Augustana because of the way the stadium sits and the way, with the berms and everything, it just really gets loud down there. And it's a heck of an environment. I know you're up in the booth, probably doesn't make a whole lot of difference to you one way or the other.
Oh, it's a great venue to do a game from. There's no doubt about that. I don't have access to the beer garden like you do, though.
Fair enough.
I'm going to pick last here, guys. We're not quite there yet. We've got the tail of the tape.
Well, you know what? Before we even get to the tail of the tape, Tom, I need to bring out a gem from the very first time this game was played. Right as I was driving up to the stadium. This one never gets old. The old screw the coup. That sign is such a beaut. And I'll never forget it. I was pulling right up to the stadium. The cougar is up there hanging on the tree behind it, by the way. And but the old screw the coup sign. No idea who this gal was back in 2012. She has no idea that we're showing this right here and now, I'm sure. But nonetheless, it always gives me a little bit of a tickle anytime I see that.
God, she could be a perfect fan of the week.
Oh boy, yeah, that nice attempted lead, and I like that. Well, let's go ahead and get to that tail of the tape. And we're going to go ahead, and this is, of course, my famous tail of the tape that we do each week. Frederick always tries to belittle it, but I won't allow it. Now, once again, here's the rules. If you got an X on either side, that means that you're very capable in that category. If you get 2 of them, that means you're double that good in that category. Both teams coming in with momentum, big time. Both teams rush the football very well. They go about it a little bit differently. Then as you move down the page, I think they're pretty even. I mean, Augustana, more yards offensively. Sioux Falls, a few more points. Then you get into defense. Clearly, the total defense, I'm going to have to give to Augustana. if I'm going to be, looking at this straight ahead. Special teams, Augustana's a little bit better. Home field advantage, that's the one that's kind of a goof here. Sioux Falls is 5-0 at that stadium and seems to play with a little chip on their shoulder when they're there. I give them the advantage there, Tom. In the overall scheme of things in the Witt matchup here, it's actually 12-11 Augustana. So all that said, Tom, who do you pick in this game and why?
I'm last.
You're last. Okay. Courier, we're going to let you go first.
Well, maybe it's recency bias, but Augustana is the best team I've seen this year. Sioux Falls was very good. I'm not going to take anything away from Sioux Falls that I saw that day, but that Augustana defense is legit. Sioux Falls is going to have to throw the ball to win. Like I said, Minnesota State didn't really test the Augustana secondary very much. So maybe Sioux Falls can have a little more success in that. But, boy, I just don't see running on that front 6-7 guys from Augustana. So I like everything Jim's done down at Sioux Falls. Certainly they have the 5-0 at the Augustana Stadium. But, man, I can't get out of my head what I saw from Augustana here when they played the Mavs. They looked like the real deal.
Chad, I'm with you. I can't believe he doesn't have a double X on the Augie rushing defense category.
Yeah, I would think so too. And special teams,
fair enough.
Special teams is also, I think, a good point. The Sioux Falls kicker struggled a little bit. I don't remember him missing any kicks, but they didn't seem to be as confident in him as the Augustana kicker was just booming it.
Well, here's kind of my take with this one. I picked Augie a year ago. I picked him the year before, actually, as well. And I split in those two games as a picker. This year, I've picked USF to lose at Mankato. I picked them to lose to UMD. Picked them to lose at Wayne. All of them, they won. So at some point, when I go ahead with where they're at, it's kind of gotten them where they're at in the regional rankings, those wins, frankly. I've been on the wrong side of the Cougar picks long enough, Tom. Given how USF has done at the KO, I'm taking the coup in an upset here, despite my head trying to steer me in the other direction. And what feels like a more logical selection with Augie, I'm going to go ahead and roll with the Cougars here on the road, quote, quote, where they have really shown up in previous years.
I just got a text from Coach Golgoski saying, please talk Matt into picking Augustana. I'm not really sure what that means. But
yes, exactly. Now, Tom, did I steal like all your thunder? Because you gave me a reaction to that pick.
I'm shocked. I'm really shocked. This is a pick'em game in my mind. USF has definitely exceeded expectations this fall, bouncing back from that first losing season since the mid-90s. But I can't see the Cougars getting it done on Saturday. Shocking as though that may be to you, Witt, and to others out there who feel I'm Mr. USF. I think the Augie defense is going to be too much. But don't pay me any heed. Witt's got me by 8 in the pick'em contest. Go with the Cougars, but I'm picking Augustana.
Well, you know what? If Augie were to win this game, you're going to get 2 points because both of you picked them. So, not that Augie cares a whole heck of a lot about that, because they probably don't. Method
to my madness.
I think there's all valid reasons there. So that's a good deal, guys.
No, that was fun. That was fun. I enjoyed that.
Well, you know what, Tom? We've had a heck of a time getting the person that we're looking for, fan of the week, on it from like our message forums and people who have been longtime, followers there, to necessarily give up their anonymity on the message board. So you know what? We don't have a fan of the week. Wait a second. Yes, we do. When was this picture taken? What part of the 80s was this?
Oh, come on. That was at least 1991. I didn't start at the Free Press till 1991. So sometime after that, but I still don't shave every day. I still have pretty full coverage with hair.
You were you were never compelled to get a more recent photo for the Free Press.
Well, you talk about anonymity.
Yes, that's one way of looking
Put
at
that,
it. Yes.
put that in the paper. I can still go out.
Well, you will be the happy recipient of an NSIC Weekly T-shirt courier, and we even have them in those big 4X sizes that you prefer.
Tell you what, bring it on for man size. Don't give me none of that child stuff.
No, that's what Frederick wears. That's exactly right.
Hey, I'm proud to weigh 160 pounds.
I'm not sure I'm proud to weigh what I do, but I ain't getting to 160 unless something really goes tragically wrong.
Yeah, I'm with you, my friend.
And now it's time for the weekly installment of what everybody loves, NSIC Jeopardy.
And you know what, Tom? What could be more? This is like double fun. We have two people in on the act now. We got Tom against Courier. This is pay-per-view type stuff here, boy. Our fans had no idea what they were in for. So, Courier, I'm going to give you a chance. Actually, you know what? Let's go, Tom. I'm going to go ahead and have you go first, okay?
Okay.
You don't really get a choice in, but I'm just telling you how we're going to do this.
Trying to make me feel good.
Now, if Tom misses, and Tom, by the way, there's no more of this foolery of give me their initials, let me know what year they graduated, and all that other happy you-know-what.
What their major was.
Yeah, so, Tom, you either know the answer or you don't, and if you don't, Courier gets to go, and vice versa. Okay, so Courier, you're going to have to pay close attention. Courier, don't blurt out the answer. Tom's up first.
I got no shot.
Okay, Tom, we're starting right now. Quarterback for Mankato when Sioux Falls came into the league, Tom, just to give you a little bit of a point of reference. Now, I'm going to give you a chance, Tom, to think it over.
John Wolf.
And Frederick stays hot from a week ago. Tom, +1. I thought for sure we were going to get like a Nick Paracchini answer or something like that from you. That was a reference I wasn't expecting to make today. Okay.
And one I would have made.
And that was a quarterback for the Mavs back in the day, for those who don't know. Now, Courier, same time frame. Are you ready? Courier up next.
Yep.
Quarterback from the same time frame.
Clap hockey.
Wow.
Phillip,
We didn't even have a chance to hit the music. Tom, he's pretty good at this.
That one all season, and you give it to him? Come on.
Listen, Tom, complaining is going to get you nowhere in this.
That's the two quarterbacks from the greatest game ever played at Blakesley.
Yes, unfortunately for the Mavs, they came out on the wrong side.
46.
Yeah, what was it, like 54-48 or something?
48 or something like that. Both quarterbacks were unbelievable.
Yeah, and they were like bombing it over the top on the Mavs. I do remember that.
Yeah,
game.
it was just an unbelievable game.
Yeah. That was kind of like the last time St. Cloud was good.
Clap Hockey was the quarterback for St. Cloud in USF's first ever NSIC game, won by the Cougars at Selke Field, like 32-19 in 2012.
That was the exact score, Tom. That's impressive. And you say you're getting too old and can't remember things. Well, we're off and running here, boy. Both guys got one right. Okay, Tom. Superstar receiver for Duluth, deep threat. Graduated, I'm going to say a year or two after COVID. Was maybe the best deep threat in the league for a short time. Hold on, Tom. We'll give you time to stir up some thoughts.
Drawing a blank.
That is not his name. Courier. You're moving closer to the screen, which is not an indication of you knowing this.
I was trying to see the name on the uniform.
It says Bulldogs.
Yeah.
Yes.
I was hoping it said Northern State because then I would have guessed Vance Barnes. But
No, I think I did mention Duluth at the beginning. Maybe I didn't.
Yeah, probably.
You did.
Okay. The small details. Courier, you have anything?
No, I got nothing on this one.
Okay. Now we're back in the groove here. Armani Carmichael.
Oh, yeah.
Always remembers it after I say it. Okay.
I don't.
Courier, you're going to get a chance to go first now.
Great.
Southwest Minnesota State running back. Boy, he's got some nice biceps. That's going to be going around now. Okay. Chad, back in the day when they made the Mineral Water Bowl, I want to say circa 2013, 14, 13, I'm going to say.
Gave up 90 to Pitt State.
Boy, nothing like throwing shade on them making the Mineral Water Bowl, Tom. Nice work. Courier. This is I believe he may even be in their, he's like Hall of Fame worthy for them.
My knowledge of Southwest Minnesota State football is almost zero. So I got nothing on this one.
Tyler.
Okay, Frederick, what do you're moving close to the mic like you're in a spelling bee. What's going on right there?
Tyler Tondrum.
Can you put that in a sentence? Okay, Tom.
Tyler Tondrum.
Hi-oh! Okay, Frederick with a big steal. Tom's got 2 now. Courier 1 in this showdown. Tom, you're next. Quarterback for Bemidji State. Previous to COVID.
He's now the offensive coordinator at Northern, perhaps. Jordan Hine.
Jordan Hine is the right answer, Tom. Look at you go. Okay. I thought maybe you'd look at that screen for a while and come up with nothing, but you got something there. Now we're 3-1. Courier, you're going to need to step up your game a little bit.
I don't know if I got game here.
Well, we knew that coming in, but
yep.
Running back Sioux Falls rushed for about 2,000 yards back right before COVID. What do you, Courier? I think it was right before COVID. Was it maybe a year after? I think it was before.
2018.
Well, it sounds like Tom knows the answer. Courier, what do you have?
I'm going to let Tom have a feel-good day here and let him win the Jeopardy. You
got nothing here, Courier?
I got nothing.
2,000-yard rusher. Best running back in
70, actually.
There you go.
Gabe Watson.
Courier, you're making him look like an all-star here. What are we doing?
That's what I want to
do. It's not easy to do, but okay. Frederick, you get a chance to go first. Quarterback for Mary was an All-American, big-time slinger for them. Who was it?
Well, then he went on to coach them. Craig Bagnell.
Absolutely wrong. Craig Bagnell's a nice guy. He doesn't have those kind of arms, and he's not 6'5".
Well, I can't tell that he's 6'5" in that picture.
He might be 5'5". He's not 6'5". But Courier, you got a chance for a steal here.
You're talking about Mary quarterbacks?
All-American. He threw to Kittner. He was Kittner's quarterback.
Oh, Logan Nelson. Oh, my bad.
Oh, yeah.
Frederick, you're ruining the bit.
Yep.
Courier gets a point automatically because of your personal foul. Okay.
I would have got it right. You told me.
Courier, you get a chance to go first again.
You gave a hint there, though. I don't get hints. You gave him the Kittner hint.
I thought you thought that was Bagnell. That's all I'm going to say. I'm just going to leave that.
He gave me the first 10 letters of his first and last name, and I wouldn't have got it.
Good governor. Okay, now it's time. Our last one. This is a coach. This counts for 2. By the way, it's 4-2. T. Fred Muggs. Courier, you get a chance to tie it because the money ball is the coach. Upper Iowa, longtime coach. Who is it?
Jeez. Come on, man. Southwest Upper Iowa, Mary. These are the games.
We give all the teams some love. Why are you trying to be a front runner?
These are the games I don't go to.
Hey, if you've never been to Fayette, Iowa, you haven't lived.
I was there one time for basketball, and I don't need to go back.
It's another DT's pub first down, or what is it? Yeah.
You can.
That's of a burglar.
Yeah. Lots of sayings that we haven't heard in a little while. No, Courier, you got nothing here?
No, I got nothing.
Tom, why are you Vanna Whiting us? Okay, what do you got?
He and I share the same name, Tom Shea.
Fair enough. Longtime coach, Tom Shea. Right after COVID, I think, or maybe before COVID, is when he retired. So, super nice guy. Well, Tom, it looks like our show was once again a big hit. And Courier, you found a way to make our guy look pretty darn good.
That's not that hard to do. It's, looking at Tom, the legend. I was afraid I was going to have to try to buoy you up somehow, but
nope.
Making Tom look good is not a problem.
Fair enough. Well, let's go ahead and
Chad, checks in the mail.
Once again, appreciation to the NSIC network and everything that they do to kind of help this league go real well and get us video and everything for free and all that stuff. Tom, we may end up heading behind a paywall here before you know it, but they've given us a lot of years where we haven't been, so we'll see how that goes. But otherwise, Mr. Courier, do you have any parting comments for the group? We haven't asked. Have you been in the pool lately? You did the show from poolside like a year ago, and I'm sure our folks who tune in were kind of anticipating that again.
That we closed that up a month ago. You like to get that closed up before the leaves start falling. I think last year we probably did it maybe the week 1 or week 2. We were still good to go at that point, but no, she's been put to bed for another year, and hopefully get her going next summer. Get the grandkids here for a while and have more fun.
Tom, do you remember the saying at the poolside with Courier?
I do not.
Clothing optional, right?
Clothing optional. I used to have a privacy fence. We don't have that anymore, but it's up to you.
That would have been useful in the green room earlier, but in any event, it's been real, Mr. Courier. I appreciate you, Tom. And
when that T-shirt comes, look inside. There's going to be a check.
Nice.
Absolutely.
I just hope. I hope if things break right, we end up at the same stadium here in a couple weeks.
Sweet.
Fair enough. That'd be good, buddy. But well, appreciate everybody tuning on in, and we'll see you guys out at the games. Thank you.